And you want to do a dégagé to the song about lynching? No, I won't. I will not have it. Nope. Hello beautiful people and welcome back to my channel. I am back with another cup of tea and more comments on race relations. Okay, I'm done with that. Before we get into today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe down below and follow me on social media if you want to. This is my Instagram. This is my Twitter. Go have fun. Today's video is about white supremacy in dance. I have a video on my channel already called Growing Up Black in the Dance World, so you should watch that if you want to get more background on kind of my dance history and my experience. But I grew up in a competitive dance studio, so that means you do ballet a lot. Your teachers will tell you that ballet is the root of all dance. Ballet is the foundation of all dance. Spoiler, it's not. It's just the white one. So that's what they say. That's what they tell you. And you grow up and you're like, you really believe it, you know? I had a teacher, she was like, well, I think ballet is the most important because it's the hardest and hip hop is easy. Which isn't true. Like, different things are hard in different ways. Another manifestation of white supremacy in dance is being the only black person in the room most of the time. When it comes to what people consider technical training, when it comes to things that the dance world considers technical training and like technical dance education, there's maybe one or two black people in the room most of the time. You know, when it comes to like open hip hop classes, that's different. Like, you will definitely see more black people there, but like in regards to when I was growing up, like my studio life, competition life, conventions, there are not going to be very many black people because dance studios are mostly in white areas and dance studios are super expensive. It's hard to get access to a good dance education. So most of the time it's going to be mostly white people. I think the biggest problem with dance as a whole is that white people become the gatekeepers to all of this access and all of these opportunities, and they don't even really know how they're even perpetuating racism. Like, they don't really get it, and that's really dangerous. I went to university for dance, and you have to take like academic dance classes, so you have to take classes where you learn and write about like either the history of dance or like writing dance courses, kind of, if that makes sense. So one of mine was dance history, and then I also had one called I Am Therefore I Dance. And in both of those classes, and this is where it starts to get bigger than dance, but everything influences everything and everything is political, you know. But when we had to write papers, you probably know this, like teachers are always like, well, you can only use scholarly resources. Let's decodify scholarly. What do we think most scholars look like? If I had to guess, what would I imagine most scholars to look like? The people who had access to someone who allowed them to speak their side of the story. Who do I think those people might generally look like? White. They're white. And what are they writing about? Ballet. Oh my God, we get it. Hit me over the head with a point shoe. When you're saying you can only use scholarly resources, you're saying your pool of the people you can quote from to write about whatever you're going to write about is going to be mostly white people. So your topics of what you can write about are now mostly white. Because in my dance history class, we had like the big final paper, and I wanted to write about cultural appropriation and hip hop. And then my professor was like, well, just so you know, you're going to have a really hard time writing about that because you're going to have a really hard time finding scholarly resources. And in my head, I'm like, doesn't that make it more worth writing about? But it's just like, it's kind of like this idea of the gatekeeper, of like white people having this all of these resources and all of this this stake. They're the stakeholders of everything that is considered respectable dance. They are the stakeholders, they have the scholarly articles, they have all these things, and if you want to be respected and you want to write about things, you want to go to college about dance, well, you need to keep writing about ballet. Why? Because it's scholarly. And the black people haven't written enough scholarly articles for you to write about hip hop, so write about ballet again. We don't have enough articles yet. Let's make some more. I don't care. I don't care. No, like, ballet is cool, ballet is great. If I just had a teacher telling me how to do ballet, that'd be very different than the experience of actually taking ballet class. If you are a dancer, you know, even if you're a white dancer, you know ballet comes with so much body shaming, innately. And then don't even get into race, because I was the only black person in the class like 99% of the time. Limited access. Anyways, when professors, and I know they mean well, and I know this is also just like, that's just like the code of university, you have to use scholarly articles, but can we open our minds enough to think about how that is oppressive? Because if I want to write about hip hop, and she was right though, it was hard to find, no, she wasn't right in I shouldn't be writing about it, but it was hard to find scholarly articles. The thing is, it's not that there's not black people writing about it, it's just they're like, you know, it's like a magazine or like it's like their own blog or something where they had to find a way to do it themselves a lot of times, or it's not to the level that these white dance historians achieve, and they're like, I'm Dr. This and I'm gonna write about ballet. Good for you. But professors need to let people reference black writers, and if that means allowing the scope of what is allowed to be put in a university level paper to be more than scholarly, then that's what you have to do. Because you can't just keep telling kids you have to use scholarly resources when 99.9% of those scholarly resources are white people, because you're not going to get accurate. Let's stop. I would love for us to stop pretending that just because somebody has a higher title means they're better, especially when we're talking about race, when we're talking about access, when we're talking about how hard it is for black people to get to the top. Let's stop acting like scholarly means better. If it was a white person with a white person, okay, maybe. If there's 2 articles about ballet and one was scholarly and one was someone's blog, okay, maybe. But when none of these scholars are writing about hip hop and cultural appropriation in hip hop, maybe there's 1 or 2 of them, but they're white and I don't care what they have to say about it. We need to allow space. We need to allow access, and that starts with allowing university students to write about black things and use black writers, no matter who they are. Like, you catch my drift, I'm upset, we know, okay, I'm gonna move on. So if we want to look at TikTok, we have Charli D'Amelio getting famous off a dance that Jalaiah Harmon, a black girl, made. And then Charli does it, doesn't give her credit, gets super famous, is probably super rich now, which, like, good for her, and there is something to be said for, like, performance quality, whatever, but call it what it is, it's white supremacy. And that happens all over the dance industry, even in the commercial dance industry. People will choreograph something that's super hip hop, and then the producers are like, okay, but let's get like a pretty blonde girl to do it. Which is like, fine. It's like, what I'm saying is I think there's a disconnect in how much hip hop we're seeing and how much white people are capitalizing off of hip hop versus how many black people we're seeing do the dances and how many black people we're seeing on screen. You see so much of what black people created. If you're gonna capitalize off of hip hop, put in some black people. Don't be like, okay, let's take the moves. Let's take the culture, let's take the finesse, the style, and put it on some white girls. Yes, that looks better. Like, it's just, we know what you're doing. We see it. And what I'm saying, I'm not saying white people shouldn't do hip hop. I'm just saying it needs to represent the demographic. Like, the amount of times we're seeing black people on screen should mimic the world that we see. Instead of this erasure of race and then putting in the contents of hip hop. It's like, oh, black people still don't exist, but look, we can do hip hop now. How'd you get it? Where'd you learn that from? Huh, that's interesting that now there's hip hop but still no black people. What a magic trick. White supremacy, what a magic trick. White supremacy in dance is also having an all-white ballet be status quo and having an all-black ballet be radical and crazy, and oh my god, I can't believe they did that. And we could, you know, go off about all of the culturally appropriative narratives in some of the biggest ballets as well that are super offensive to a lot of cultures. But we don't. Why? Because we want our Christmas ballet. Okay, we see what you value, and that is white supremacy. Balanchine, who is one of the ballet choreographers with the most notoriety in history, his definition of what a ballerina looks like is like porcelain skin. And yet we learn about him in dance history for most of the frickin' time. Like, did we learn about anything else? I don't know. Just Balanchine, 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 Balanchine. I get it. I really do. I get it. For me to have taken dance history and learned about Balanchine for so long and not been taught that he was racist, for the teacher to not have mentioned that his ideal ballerina had porcelain skin bothers me. For us to pretend this man was just a great choreographer and didn't say and do harmful things that have contributed to the stereotype of what a ballerina should look like that excludes black people. Because if you just talk about this great choreographer and you're like, oh yeah, he did this and this is what he did and he changed ballet forever, and you don't say, oh yeah, he was racist also. Make it make sense. Because then we're perpetuating the stereotype of ballet is the best. Everybody in ballet is great. The choreographers were amazing. They said some things, but they're dismissible because they were just so good at ballet. And ballet is the best. And ballet is so important. We look at the block petitions. Block, block, block doesn't make point shoes for brown skin. Block. If you're a dancer, you know Block is like a really big brand. You have the resources, you just don't care. And then obviously we have the tights, like most tights you're gonna find are pink, which even for white people is light. A lot of white people still are darker than their tights. It's almost like nobody decided to like ever just update the system, and they were like, pink everything for porcelain. Yeah, let's keep doing it. It's working. Nobody said anything, so let's keep doing it. It'd be one thing if it was like just the company, but it's just like the entire system and establishment of dance supports it. Like, I didn't have one teacher growing up being like, yeah, they should definitely make tights that match your skin tone. They should definitely make ballet shoes that match your skin tone. It's crazy that they don't do that. That's really racially prejudiced. Nobody said that. They're just like, put on your tights and get into class. I'm just gonna go ahead and get into the technique conversation. So if you are a dancer and you hear the word technique, we are conditioned to think that technique means ballet. It means turnout. It means point. It means shoulders back, chest up, chin up, like tummy sucked in, butt tucked under. That's what we've been conditioned to think technique means. And we're conditioned to think that technique means ballet, jazz, modern, and that hip hop is just, hip hop's whatever. Hip hop's the fun one. Hip hop's easy. I remember the first time I ever considered hip hop having a technique was in high school. I went to an art school for my second 2 years of high school, and I had a really great teacher, and she was like, so like, what is technique? Let's talk about technique. And she was very like free thinking, like trying to get us to think for ourselves. And I was like, I raised my hand and I was like, well, I think that technique is just like a specific way that people have decided is the most efficient way of doing things, of doing something. And when you think about what it means to really have a technique, it just means the most efficient way to be doing something. But in dance, for some reason, it means like classical ballet. When you think about hip hop, if you know hip hop, you know there is a technique to hip hop and there's a technique to doing things. But then we still have professors at my university who say, well, there's no technique to hip hop, so I don't know how to grade it if you do it for your assignment. I also think just a big problem that people maybe don't realize, what comes with white supremacy is that white people get to control the narrative. They get to control the narrative in regular everyday life, in politics, in dance. So what that looks like is white people taking songs like Strange Fruit and dancing to them like it's just a regular song about anything. Like, I do not want to see a white person dancing to Strange Fruit. And I saw a big group of them 2 years ago at American College Dance Association conference. Big group of white people dancing to Strange Fruit like they had no idea what it was about. It's about lynched bodies. Lynched, hanging from trees, like Robert Fuller was last week. Lynched. And you want to do a dégagé to the song about lynching? No, no, I won't. I will not have it. Nope. And people watch it, they don't say anything. The adjudicators watch it, they don't say anything about how it's inappropriate. It's just, complacency. Not it. Not it. But what I'm saying is, white people get to control the narratives of Black art and make it their own, and no one says anything. And they get to capitalize off it, and no one says anything. And when I'm saying no one, I'm saying the other white people observing. And maybe they don't even understand, but educate yourself. I don't care. There's no excuse anymore. Google is free. If you don't know what Strange Fruit is about, turn it on, honey, because we don't have time anymore. This video is already really long and I have a lot more to say, but some of it can go into my part 2 of growing up Black in the dance world, where I talk about college. Like, this topic will never exhaust itself. I also should do a whole video on cultural appropriation. Like, there's just so much, but I think that is what I'm gonna have to leave it at for today, because there's a lot. But thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below if you want to start a discussion. Follow me on social media if you want to. I'll also link my podcast down below. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.